Hi everybody, this is Toffee bringing you the rest of Act 3 of my Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia 100% growths except Python's defense LTC. It's time for Celica's route. This is the last map where we're locked into using foot units, and as such we'll focus on training up some movement skills. May will learn Shove with the Iron Shield we picked up in Zofia Castle, and Leon will learn Swap. Something I figured out after finishing the run is that training Jenny up to learn Swap is possible without impacting any of our relevant units' EXP gain, and she would have learned it on this map. May is gonna handle the squad of enemies by the boss, while Leon is going to kill about half the enemies in the top right squad. There's also a lone brigand in the bottom right part of the map. Because Leon has to use a leather shield in order to learn Swap, he is using the default bow, which is not strong enough to let him one-shot that mercenary with a crit on enemy phase, which is why we need to first chip him and then suspend to set the default bow to perfect crit. Fire is also at perfect hit and crit right now. Of course, doing this does mean that the archer in the bottom left squad has perfect hit and crit, but Valbar can tank him like a champ. May's Thunder was set to have 0 accuracy because we need May to get one player phase round of combat, but she's so strong at this point that even chipping Garth once with fire would do more than half his HP in damage, which would activate Heal AI, which we don't want. May is the ideal candidate for a shove bot because she has good offenses without needing to use a weapon, and that means that she can afford to learn a skill like that. Because shove takes 10 rounds of combat and we are transitioning into a different stage of Celica's route, let's just say with the Fliers taking the center stage, we're not going to have time to train the swap bots up to shove outside of May. The two NPC units are Pala and Katria. They don't really do much on this map, though in a run where you train Jenny to learn swap, they would have to handle most of the enemies that Leon couldn't kill on turn 1. I'll talk more about Pala and Katria when they actually join our party. With this skill, May learns Shove. Saber is also packing a crit Iron Sword in order to clean up these remaining brigands. Leon needs a bow an actual proper bow in order to have 5 range to pick that brigand off. It's really difficult to get to him because of the desert tiles by the left passage. And completes Zofia Coast in 2 turns. This chapter features the cutscene glitch, meaning Celica, May, Bowie, and Saber are the only ones to gain bonus EXP. We head back to Zofia Harbor to recruit Pala and Katria. They both have similar bases, though Pala comes at level 8 and Katria is at level 5. Pala's EXP gain is quite sluggish, meaning she'll have difficulty digging herself out of her lame start, so she'll be more of a utility flyer, eventually learning Shove alongside Swap. Katria is going to be the most important combat unit on Celica's route since she can actually hit the stat benchmarks to help 3-turn Grieth Citadel in the process of being trained to promote. She will end up learning Swap to help with an Act 4 clear. Since Celica's route is very terrain heavy, our Fliers will do a lot of the heavy lifting to route maps, with Leon being more of a raid specialist who is going to be broken out mostly to handle clusters of enemies our Fliers will have problems enemy phasing, such as large groups of enemy archers. Hint hint. The Fliers will show off their superior movement immediately in the graveyard skirmish. We need Pala and Katria at base to kill a bunch of Revenants with the Drake crits. Katria starts off by chipping the Revenant for a little extra EXP before we suspend to set the steel lines to perfect hit and crit. We need Pala and Pala's one extra point of strength lets her do this with the default lance, letting her start working on learning Swap, whereas Katria needs the help from the steel lance. Pala unfortunately can't get chip and the consequent one round of weapon EXP on turn 1 because of the position she needs to move to in order to handle that cluster of 3 enemies. There is one Revenant on the map who Pala and Katria don't cover, and Leon will take that one out with a chip plus a kill in order to maximize his EXP. Valentia needs to dodge one attack on this enemy phase or the attack on the previous player phase. That will conclude the map in 1 turn. The mountain village is where Celica gains access to forging. If we hadn't obtained the iron shield from Zofia Castle, this is the first opportunity to forge the rusted one, which as you can see is just too late. This is where we recruit the villager Atlas. He's obviously not going to be directly relevant as a combat unit given his 4 movement, though we want to promote him to either archer or mage for the improved terrain properties on one particular map. You saw over there the Peddler for Celica's Act 3. We activate a quest, which we'll resolve later when we go to the Dragon Shrine. We're going to forge the steel lance up to a silver lance, and it'll be the primary weapon Pala uses to kill things for a few maps, with hacked crits making up for her inability to double mercenary lines. Celica could have infinite money by this point just by cutting grass in the Thief's Shrine in Act 2. Though thankfully, we have enough stuff that we can sell that, we didn't need to have gone and farmed things. This isn't the highest farm the Silver Lance will reach, though. You'll see later. I don't think forging the rusted shield is strictly necessary, but why not have an extra option on hand? We now head back to finally clear out the Seabound Shrine we skipped in Act 2. The Seabound Shrine fight is a pair of Necro Dragons. We could have one-turned this map even back in Act 2, but we wanted to feed the kill of one of the Necro Dragons to Pala, who is more relevant as an EXP target than someone like, say, Mei. Leon will take out the other one. As you can see, Atlas comes ready to promote, so we'll be promoting him in the Mila statue inside the Seabound shrine. It's unfortunate Katria doesn't get to fight on this map, but that's what happens when you one turn such a small map like this. The Seabound Shrine is Celica's primary money grinding location until halfway through Act 4, since there's a lot of coral to cut in the first area, and the special encounter for this dungeon will not show up during the main campaign. I've cut out the exploration since it interspersed with a lot of coral cutting. We want to farm 5 coral fragments for a quest in Zofia Harbor. This starving guy needs some meat. I initially screwed up and forgot to put Atlas in the party, which is why I need to exit and re-enter a couple of times before I finally get it right. Those linked wells give HP and skill, and I actually used the HP wells later for a failed attempt at a turn save. There is a blessed sword at the end of the dungeon, alongside a 2-use EXP well and a 2-use resistance well. The EXP wells will be important, the resistance wells not so much. This was me forgetting to substitute Atlas in, but I finally get it right. Oh well, it was at least an excuse to cut coral to farm coral fragments. Atlas goes archer, though as previously mentioned, a mage Atlas could also do pretty much everything I have him do in this run. I should have cut this part out, but it didn't occur to me to do so until like afterward. But yeah, this is just me checking how many coral fragments I have. One shot, so I need to make another trip to go farm them. With our corals in hand, we go to Zofia Harbor to turn them into Alessio, who wants 5 of them. With all the money we earned from questing, we're gonna head back up to the forge in the mountain village. We're going to forge the Javelin to +2. The Javelin will be Katria's weapon of choice for the next couple of maps as we power level her to promotion. Naturally, we will give it a name befitting a weapon for a Pegasus Knight who will grow like a weed. This isn't the Javelin's final form though. We'll be back to forge it up to maximum a little later. We rig a mercenary map spawn to get to the desert stronghold. This is a map with a bunch of archers in the fortress, giving it the nickname Beaufort. The map spawn enemies mostly show up outside, giving Pala and Katria some EXP, in particular Pala, since the fort will of course be the Leon show. I mentioned earlier that Katria needs to be a Falconite for Grieth Citadel. Pala will also promote for that map. She doesn't strictly need to, but she does need to promote for the map after that, and Pala is not going to earn a level up as an unpromoted unit on Grieth Citadel. This is the map where we wanted Atlas to be either an archer or a mage so that he can walk into the desert and help trade the leather shield around. Katria started off with the Javelin set to not crit so that she could get chip EXP. We suspend to set it to crit the 2 enemies that she's going to face on this enemy phase. This is one of the rare maps where Saber's 5 movement is significant. The desert terrain prevents most of our units from contributing, and Leon only even manages to get to the front in time because May will be his personal shove bot to accelerate him to the entrance. Leon definitely needs a killer bow by this point just so he can crit all the enemies without them forcibly critting him. Map spawns tend to have silver purses, which is why you would have noticed silver purse drops on quite a few Alms Act 3 maps. We suspended to set the Javelin to no longer crit because we don't want to feed Katria any more kills for the rest of this map. Instead, we just have her chip at that one mercenary. We wanted the mercenaries near the entrance to move in that particular fashion that the Arcanist who is left alive is forced to attack Pala from one range. Leon's movements are precise to make sure May can shove him 3 times over the course of this map. Katria is at 99 EXP, which simply will not do, but we can't afford to have her chip that mercenary on turn 3 player phase, since that would actually kill him. So instead we are going to suspend again to set her Javelin to have negligible hit, since all we want is for her to whiff in order to get a level up. uncapping her EXP to let her also gain the bonus EXP from this map. Pala is the one who will actually take the kill. Leon plugs up the entrance and he will clean up the rest of the map to complete it in 3 turns. Normally, getting a mercenary map spawn to the desert stronghold necessitates a map spawn also being present on Sonya's map. However, I unintentionally glitched the mercenary into despawning so I can visit the stronghold to recruit Jesse and pick up some items. I don't actually need this glitch. The items won't matter on the next map, and the extra deployment slot Jesse brings will not be necessary there either. So I could have gone straight to Sonya's map if the map spawn was still around and come back here afterwards. Jesse himself is just a filler unit, he's not going to do anything. Time for another desert map. While Pala killed a lot of enemies on the last map, this will be the Katria show, with Pala and Leon taking a handful of enemies who can't die to Katria. Katria needs to be boosted 3 squares in a straight line, which will necessitate 1 shove, 2 swaps, and a little bit of trading. Celica's starting spot often makes it annoying to actually use her for swap. Those 3 extra squares let Katria get to that particular square and kill that Thunder Witch who would otherwise outrange her. There are a couple more Thunder Witches on the right, but they're Leon's problem along with the archers. Pala tails Katria since she needs to clean up the enemies stuck in the desert in the bottom left part of the map. I bunch up my other units mostly to try and discourage the witches from teleporting there to attack them. It goes without saying that a lot of Celica's maps have the enemy weaponry set to have low accuracy just because we're getting the white wings to kill so many enemies when they have mediocre bases. Sonya crits Katria, which I did not want to happen, so I promptly turn wheel to anti-rig that. We want both Pala and Katria to end this map at level 11 in preparation for the next one. I faff about a bit with putting my units into a ball. The rest of the enemies will die on enemy phase to complete the map in 2 turns. We head back to the Seabound shrine after that to farm money and to promote Pala and Katria. We do this by giving them 1 EXP well each. To one-shot Grieth, the boss of the next map, with a crit, we need to pull 25 attack, and Katria with a +2 javelin has exactly 24 attack as a level 1 Falconite, while being far from doubling him. This is why we need to forge the javelin to +3, which necessitates farming. Promoting Pala and Katria will teach them the Banish skill, which effectively lets them kill terrors in a run like this where we're hacking critical hits. The Javelin plus 3 is quite a pricey forge. We need a gold mark, which is why we need to farm 500 silver to turn it into a gold mark. We don't want to face any map spawns this time because they would get in the way of Katria's movement on this map. Grieth Citadel is the last of the desert map trilogy, and Katria will fly through the center, handling the brunt of our offense. Pala will take the Iron Shield to handle the left part of the map and start working on learning Shove. Yes, she's going to start working on learning Shove before she even learns Swap, because she will learn Swap on the next map. While Leon, with his trusty assistant May, will take care of the right. There is one rather threatening enemy mercenary in the bottom right that our filler units need to handle. We will have Celica kill him because we want her to gain another level up to help manipulate the AI on an upcoming fight. I give her the Radiant Shield, but she is going to get nowhere close to actually learning Shove, so it's pointless. The Radiant Shield will eventually go to Alm because it grants +2 attack, which translates to an extra square of warp range on Silk. There is a quest where we could turn it in for Pegasus cheese, but we are definitely not going to do that. It's a little hesitancy in my movements. Katria needs 2 swaps to get to a particular square where she can bait Grieth on turn 1 while taking out a Mire Arcanist that can't be countered by her on enemy phase. Leon will pick off the sniper, who also obviously cannot be enemy faced by Katria. Mila's default lance is initially set to negligible hit, so she can gain an extra round of combat by missing that Myrmidon on turn 1. Most of the enemies move in such a way that Katria can't get to the Cantor, so instead she will pick off the Arcanist on turn 2 and save the Cantor for turn 3. We suspend to set Pala's Lance to crit so that she can kill the Sniper, after which we will suspend again to set it to merely chip the Myrmidon on enemy phase, because the Myrmidon gets 4-shot by Pala, so we want to first chip and then crit him so that we don't activate his heal AI. I'll skip most of this enemy phase because I realized I forgot to move Celica. So I'll let it play out the second time around. Down your enemy phase is going to see Katria slaughter a bunch of terrors with her new banish skill. It's a shame we couldn't trade her something like an iron shield in order to let her work on learning shove, but thankfully she only needs to use swap. One mercenary who's on screen isn't in range of Katria, and we need him to move towards either Katria or Leon because Paula cannot handle him with her default lance in a single round of combat. We suspend to set Paula's lance to crit so she can kill the Arcanist on player phase and kill the the Myrmidon on enemy phase. Salka gets a little bit of chippy XP. She will enemy phase that guy with her newly set crit default sword because we've killed all of the other threatening enemies who use the default sword. With those tactically timed shoves, Leon is able to skip past that desert tile, get inside, and pick off that sniper and be in range of the remaining Arcanist. I faff about a little bit with the positioning here. I really didn't need to do that given I'd already hacked the Javelin to have a lot of hit, so even if I had that guy attack Katria from the supply style, it wouldn't have mattered. The remaining enemies will suicide into us to complete the map in 3 turns. We raid Grieth Citadel for some items and to recruit 2 units. Dean is a filler unit, and Est is the last of the White Wings. Est has really questionable bases outside of an interestingly high resistance stat, but being a flyer, she's going to have to pitch in this LTC. One notable piece of treasure we pick up is the Fugue Shield. It can be traded in for a golden apple, but we will choose to hang on to it since it allows using swap, and we would really like to have a secondary swap weapon for our foot units to use on a couple of maps. The javelin we pick up will be forged into Celica's first Salnion. I immediately dump all my HP boosters on Est, including the Fruit of Life from Ram Village and the HP wells in the Seabound Shrine, to fish for a turn save. But what I actually should have done is sent the Pegasus cheese over from Alm's route and given Est all 3 of the Pegasus cheeses. Yes, I just criticized Est and I'm immediately advocating for dumping a whole bunch of stat boosters into her. I will actually use Est as a combat flyer in this run, mostly because it's amusing to use the best Pegasus Knight. The reason for dumping these stat boosters into Est is because she's critical for the theoretical 1-turn clear of Valley Approach, the next map. The approach I was going for to one turn that map simply benefited from the HP boosters, but after this run was done, USS Garden Captain and I figured out how to actually one turn that map, and it turns out it wasn't about the HP boosters, but instead about the speed boosters. We also forged the Silver Lance to +1 for my failed attempt at the turn save. The actual way to save that turn is to forge it to +5. Since this lance has a history of being used by terrible Pegasus Knights to kill enemies they have no business one-rounding, I gave it a suitable name. I do the inventory management for the next map ahead of time. Valley Approach is the one candidate for a turn save over my run. The enemies start pretty far from us behind terrain, so the White Wings are gonna lead the charge. I two-turn this map, but a one-turn clear is possible. I just didn't figure out how to do it until after this run. Shoutouts to USS Garden Captain for helping me figure that one out. The View Shield immediately comes in handy as a secondary source of swap on this map. Zofia needs to be boosted 2 squares to kill a Mire Arcanist in the top right squad and to be in range to kill the rest of the enemies there on enemy phase. And Flora needs to be boosted 3 squares in order to kill the archer in the top part of the map with the Sonya, which will also let her enemy phase the witch near him. These 2 kills will also let her learn swap at last. Est flies up to deal with the boss and the map spawn speed rigged. I gave Est the HP boosters so she could take 1 hit from the boss, who has a Shadow Sword and doubles her, in the hopes of killing him with a +1 Silver Lance crit plus a Shadow Sword backfire. The rate of Shadow Sword backfire is unknown in this game, and it seems exceptionally rare, if not impossible, for enemies to backfire. I've only heard of a few anecdotes of it happening. I threw about 50 attempts at this strategy before settling for a 2-turn that is as close to a theoretical 1-turn as possible, in the interest of making a 1-turn clear easy to integrate into the run. However, there is an alternate approach to pulling this 1-turn clear off, which does not rely on undocumented mechanics. We would need to force the Silver Lance to +5 so it only weighs S down by 1, and then give her both the Pegasus cheeses on Selka's route and the Pegasus cheese from Alm's route. This would let her have 16 AS with the Silver Lance, letting her kill the boss with a double crit. The Paladins will die to Est in this clear on turn 2 with a crit from the +1 Silver Lance once she levels up from killing the boss, though obviously the +5 Silver Lance would just straight up one-shot them in a 1-turn clear. That will complete Valley Approach in 2 turns. We now venture into the Dragon Shrine to pick up some items and to do a forced encounter. We need to do a lot of sneaking to grab all the loot here. I'll probably just be silent until we get to the encounter so you can enjoy watching Metal Gear Emblem, or more likely skipping past it. It was a narrow escape. Dragon Shrine is unique in being the only zero-turn clear in the run. The idea is that we want to get the stationary Necro Dragon to ambush us by walking along the wall and letting the wall's pushback knock us into him. This, combined with carefully setting up Celica to have more defense than Pala and May, will cause the Necro Dragons to suicide into units who can kill them on turn 0 enemy phase. Calling it a zero turn is slightly misleading though. The game's Blitzkrieg achievement counts it as a turn, so the category doesn't permit infinitely grinding up units here. I faff about with inventories for far too long, but I don't think anybody watches my video to see type menuing. Thankfully, this particular trick is not that hard to pull off. Certainly much easier than a similar trick we're gonna do in Act 5. Throwing these two Necro Dragons gives Pala a couple of extra points of shove EXP, and the 2 kills May gets lets her hit level 11, which means she now has hit the stat benchmark for killing the boss in late Act 4 that she needs to deal with. That is Dragon Shrine in 0 turns. We'll just clean up the rest of the dungeon before heading out. We head back to the Seabound Shrine for another money farming session because we want to forge a second Saunion for Mila Temple. We also complete the quest by giving the woman her son's diary. We forge two Saunions on Salika's route because it's basically forgeable swap and it can counter Arcanists, which our Fliers really like having. We rig the Paladin map spawn because we can handle it, and it's off to the finale of Act 3. Most LTCs use a Bow Knight to 3-turn this map, but we're going to do it with Leon still a sniper by having the Whitelings carry the combat. Katria and Est will use the Saunions because most of the enemies they face are Mire Arcanists, with Pala taking the Rian shields so as to learn Shove. Leon needs to be boosted an extra square so he can get to the boss in time, because we want to feed him the boss kill. We could do this map without him at all, but that would not actually be good for our long-term goals. Pala moves up there so she can kill the enemy paladins with rigged crits from her default lance. Est positions herself there so that she can enemy phase that one Arcanist next to the boss, while Katria needs a shove to pick off the first sniper on turn 1. Est's EXP gain is unreal because of her low base level, which lets her grow really fast. Because we set the default lance to crit, these paladins all crit Pala, but it's okay, she can take it. Because we're doing a full flyer clear of this map, the snipers are effectively passive enemies, so Katria's player phase actions are dedicated to picking them off. Katria takes advantage of the fence to keep most of the Arcanists from being able to one-range her. One of the Arcanists could walk onto the fence and one-range her, but he is going to be distracted by Est, who's a more tempting target. As long as Mikhail doesn't move onto the top supply tile, Leon can pick him off on turn 3. If Mikhail does move onto the top supply tile, then either Pala needs to kill him, which we don't want to do for EXP reasons, or Pala can open the door for Leon to move up and kill him, which would cost her the gargoyle kill. Though it's not that much EXP and she's already learned shove, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal. We wanted to feed his boss skill to Leon so he could hit level 9, because we need him to be a bow knight in Act 4, and by having him hit level 9 he only needs 1 EXP well from the Temple of Mila to hit promotion. Country positioned herself so that stationary Arcanist would attack her, and that will complete the map in 3 turns. Katria learns Swap, and Est is almost there too. Time to clean up Act 3. I fuss about a bit because I misread the quest and item locations in the Mila Temple, so you'll see me going back and forth. Probably should have cut that out. The reason we got the medicinal syrup with Celica all the way back at the end of Act 2 from Zofia Castle was for the sake of this quest. We skipped some cutscenes to get to Celica's promotion. It doesn't do all that much for her stat-wise in the first place, and on top of that, she isn't even going to fight anything for the rest of the game. It doesn't even give her extra movement to make her a better swap bot. Now that she has her tiara, we can open the gate from this end of the continent. I guess it's not a tiara, but a diadem. We can't explore the basement of the Mila Temple during Act 3, though I do show off that the EXP fountain is here, and I could just have given Leon the fountain and promoted him right now. Oh well, I'll do it in Act 4. Opening the gate lets us talk to the flustered cleric to start a quest which we'll complete in Act 4. We now head back to the mountain village to send the rain shield over to Alm. I realized I forgot to pick up a cog in the Temple of Mila, so I quickly go back to deal with that. All will now head up to open the sluice gate to conclude Act 3. See you next time!